What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Coming Clean. Today, I am beyond excited because we have a special guest. If you're watching YouTube, you can probably already see that we have a special guest, but this is no other than the man and the legend himself, Mr. John Pruna.
Oh my God. I will take that intro from you 8 times a week. I'll send your check in the mail for saying that.
Well, I'm going to hold you to that.
Yes.
So for people watching and listening that don't know who you are, we met, what, 3 years ago. 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And it's funny because he didn't even know who I was when I met him.
Oh my God.
His wife knew who I was.
No, this is funny. Anybody who's watching this or listening to this, I guarantee you're going to identify with me. So first off, you know, Paige been big time for God knows how long, right? Probably like 7-8 years in this game of fitness influencer. I don't know how many people are listening who have tried to train with their significant other, like try to teach your spouse or your girlfriend, boyfriend, like into fitness, right? So you got one person who's a coach like me. So I'd like to consider myself pretty knowledgeable on how to work out and what to do. And my wife of today was just getting into fitness. So man, when we met like 7 years ago, I would try to take her to the gym and tell her what to do on how to guide her. And she would not listen to a word I would say. We would get in fights, like just after the warm up. After the warm up, I'm like, all right, we're going to start with this. She's like, no, I'm not listening to you. Like, you just do what you want to do. I'm going to be over here, blah, 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 blah. So then she learns this thing called Instagram and she starts coaching me and saying, you know what, Jay, I see you working on a lot of things, but there's this girl named Paige Hathaway who like really knows what she's doing. Like, you should get to know her a little bit. Like, she's awesome. Like, I follow her and oh my God, I want to be her.
Funny.
So she's fangirling over you. So I'm like, okay, so now I don't even know you. And I'm like lightweight hating on you a little bit. Like, who is this girl who's getting all this clout with my now wife? So I'm like, so what is she telling you to do that I haven't told you to do? So she's just like, well, like, have you ever heard of like squats before? Like, you should actually squat sometimes or do deadlifts. And like, she tells me like eat vegetables and like make good choices. And I'm like,
that is so funny.
My wife doesn't listen to me, but she listens to Paige. So now if I want to get a point through my wife, I just will message you now and say, Paige, can you post this? That way it'll really get through my wife. So
that's funny. It's so funny how, I don't know, everything comes back full circle, because then Jason was telling me, you gotta, you know, look at this guy. He's so motivational. He talks like mindset. Like, he's just more than training and diet. And I'm like, who is this guy? And so then we met and we're like, okay.
See, we did it for each other.
So, you're cool. You're cool. We get it.
So now if you need to get something through Jay, you can just hit me up.
Hit you up.
See, we'll both help our relationship.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot about you now. Mm-hmm. You know, you've been training Jay now for 3 years. You train Lambert now. You train so many people that I know now. But I don't know much about like your past, your beginnings, like how you even became who you are today.
Man.
So first and foremost, before we start, because there's just so much that I want to get into. Also because like, I want to say throughout my career, I've been so blessed to meet so many amazing people. So many people that have, you know, really made an impact on my life. But honestly, you're one of the top 5 people that I always come back to that I think like, this guy is like magic. Like, he's got something different about him, you know, just because of like your love for people. You're just not about going to the gym and drinking protein shakes. You're about so much more than that. You know, yours starts even beyond the gym. So I thought I really wanted to bring you on the podcast and just tell your story and just speaking to people's life, because it's just, you're just extraordinary.
Man, I'm moved. I didn't see that. The fact that I'm making the top 5, I'm already feeling
so
myself. Like
I think you're
I'm already like sitting back here, like with my shoulders back.
Get my
like,
posture together.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so how did you start? Like how did you start? I mean,
Man.
did you grow up playing sports? Did you have how did you start?
Man, like you said before, you know, fitness saves people's lives, you know, and I couldn't agree more. Like, I honestly had a lot of performance anxiety. You know, I was always pretty good at a lot of things, but I didn't really have a lot of confidence. You know, I think I really struggled whenever I would play sports in front of people, but I would do really well, like, you know, at playing street ball, you know, so like, I was never that guy. You know, I went to college, I was like skinny fat, and it got to the point where a lot of my friends were just way stronger than me. And I went to A&M, and I stuck out like a sore thumb at A&M. You could probably tell that it was just a different vibe there. And I just said, you know what? Let me really dedicate myself to just being in the gym. And, you know, at that point, I'm like 18, 19 years old. And that's when the transformation started happening. So as that evolved, you know, I just started falling in love with the process. You know, you really start to use fitness as a vessel to become mentally stronger and more disciplined, in my mind, in every pocket of life, like financially, physically, because, you know, suddenly when you start to succeed in one area, that transfers.
Yes.
And I think that's really how my fitness journey really started, to be quite honest. Because if I played high school basketball and I was the guy to distract everybody, to like make people laugh. So while everybody was like working out, preparing, I would just be kind of the clown who just jokes around, you know, because I didn't want to be humiliated and get up under the bar and not be able to do anything.
Right.
And it's funny because now people look to me as mentally tough, you know, or someone who really knows how to handle adversity. But I was the opposite coming up.
Wow, I didn't know that. So you had your own transformation. I'm always curious about that, because for me, I started, you know, in my early 20s, and I was the same. I was kind of like skinny fat. I didn't really know anything about lifting weights or how to transform your body or anything about food. I thought like salads from like Cheesecake Factory were like healthy, which they're not. So yeah, I had the same type of, I guess, story in the transformation department. Did you, I mean, obviously you didn't know what to do. So what sources did you look for to like really start your journey?
Man, it's funny. I was obsessed with muscle and fitness magazines.
Oh, really?
I really think I learned so much from reading every magazine under the sun when I first started getting into fitness, because I actually majored in psychology.
Wow.
Because to me personally, I feel like every great coach, honestly, has to be part physical therapist, part psychologist, part nutritionist, part strength and conditioning. So for me, when you can master behavior and mindset, suddenly you can control everything that you want to do.
Right.
So you know, I started with magazines, and of course, like most people, I started getting certifications in different areas. And from there, I started stacking knowledge in different places of fitness, because fitness is, you know, ever evolving.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was magazines.
Wow.
Magazines. Like bodybuilding magazines.
Before internet.
Yes. Yeah. When people actually read magazines and they weren't just decorative stuff on people's coffee tables. So yeah.
That's funny. So going into college, did you have a direction on what you wanted to do? Was it what you're doing now?
Man, that's such an awesome question. Like, my parents, you know, are immigrants. Like my dad, it's funny. If anybody who listens, and I'm sure you have so many millions of people who follow you, like most Filipinos, the women are nurses, and it's a joke, right? Like if you go to the hospital, Paige, chances are a Filipino is going to take care of you. 1,000%.
I think Lambert was supposed to be a nurse.
And if you go outside, there's a very good chance a Filipino will deliver your mail.
Wow.
So my dad was a mailman, and my mom was a nurse. So naturally, you know, their dreams to make it to the States, and they wanted me to stay within that corporate structure.
That is so funny.
And I was so not about that. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I know I wanted to be in like a leadership position.
Yeah.
And I ended up falling in love with fitness and mentality. And honestly, the science of being successful. Like when people can really learn how to be successful and control their own mind, like it doesn't really matter what industry you get in, you're gonna win.
Yeah.
So I really didn't know.
How did that even like get instilled in you at like a younger age? Because I feel like that is like being mentally strong. And I mean, that's something that, especially being younger, you know, we all struggle with. I know that I didn't even like get my like, get in a better headspace until I was like mid-20s.
Yeah.
I was just very lost. I was like, what am I going to do with myself? Like, I got to get my crap together. Like, being mentally strong was something that I had to like really discipline myself into obtaining.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't something that like, you know what I mean? Like I had to like really like get my crap together. But how was that something that was like, you know, instilled in your life? Because I feel like that's something that you were like, okay, I this is something that I need to like move forward with at such a young age.
Man, like to me, you said you learned it in your 20s. Like for me to like really be honest with myself and learn, like I felt like I was 30 years old.
Oh yeah.
When like that big click happened.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everybody has different definitions of success, you know, and for me, I always knew I had something more in me, but I was somehow suppressing it or dismissing it because whether it's what people said, you know, me comparing myself to other people. So even now, like at 40 years old, like there's still so much that I want to achieve.
Damn.
I know.
Just kidding.
But I got that Asian blood though. You act surprised.
I
Like,
thought you were my age.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'll take it. I'll take that. But yeah, I think there's certain milestones in people's life where they already know like where they kind of expected themselves to be. And in that later 20s or 30 years old, like I kind of said to myself, man, like enough is enough.
Yeah.
If I want to get to a particular place in my life, that's why I always say enough is like the most transformative word in the English language, because you either have enough or you've had enough.
Oh, I love that.
And people don't really know when they hit that particular moment. Like even ambitious people like you, right? Like you're always like, okay, I did this. Next level is here. Next level is here. But there is a balance between you being ambitious and saying, man, I have a beautiful baby girl. You know, I got a man who loves me and supports me. I'm doing what I love. Like I have enough and I could build from there. And then you got other people who have not had enough. Like they're just not happy with their lives. And I tell people that I'm training all the time, like, you're not desperate enough. Like you haven't had it. Your back is not against the wall enough for you to actually make a change.
That is so true.
So yeah. So when that happens, you're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And for me, when I was 30, I was like, okay, in my mind, I was like, man, I want to settle down with somebody, build a family, and start thinking about that. And I want to do something that I want to design my life the way I really want. And, you know, I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
At 40 years old.
Yeah. And you're going to still do it always. I feel like no matter what, even if you feel like you have enough, you could always strive for, you know, not more so, but like always something not better, but more. You know what I mean? Like,
I totally agree. That's
why we have goals. That's why we have dreams.
No doubt.
And that never stops.
No doubt.
Know?
You never want to get content, but it's like everything. I say this all the time. Like when you made it, right? Like there was a time in your life where there was zero balance. Like it was like a healthy obsession.
Right.
You know, but everybody probably around you is like, man, Paige is crazy. She's working crazy hours. She's going from one thing to the other. And there's no balance in her life.
Right.
You know, but at the end of the day, like you knew where you wanted to go. I think there's a certain point where you do have to breathe a little bit and say, you know what? Like I can't constantly just keep chasing this carrot.
Yeah.
I need to appreciate what I have right now, you know, because that can really lead to like a void in your life.
Yeah.
When you're just like, man, I got to, what's next? What's next? What's next? So I'm with you on that, though.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. And I love what you said about like, you felt like you always were like meant for something more, because I had that feeling too. And I just wanted to tell our listeners, like, if you feel like that feeling is there for a reason. You are meant for more.
Yeah.
You know, that feeling is not there for fun. You know, it's to really light that fire inside you and to like figure out what that more is. Man,
I remember you told me that, like, when we first got cool, you were telling me, because I asked you that same question, and you were like, man, I always knew that there was like something else for me to achieve. Like I had something deeper and something greater inside of me. And, you know, that's a calling. Like you got to listen to it. And most people just ignore it. You know, they ignore that ring.
Right. And I also wanted to touch on balance, because I feel that, you know, we do live a life that, you know, it is great for us to have goals and dreams and for us to like work towards something every day. But balance, I mean, and you know, we might not have it all figured out, and that's okay. But balance is something that, I mean, I even struggle with balance.
Oh yeah.
Nowadays. So, if you don't have it all figured out, like it's okay to not have it all figured out. And, how do you balance everything? Because I know that you have a business and you do what you do and you have a family, and like, how do you balance everything?
Well, obviously I think routine is everything. You know, routine is everything. Like you have to organize your life in such a way that, you know, I'll put it like this. Everybody should have a vision for what their life should look like in 5, 10 years, whatever that timeline is. And you have to kind of design your days that are going to obviously lead up to that.
Right.
So the whole balance, I mean, I'm a father, you know, I'm a husband, you know, there's no way I need to put that on the back burner. There's going to be times, of course, where it's like, I got to make this part of my career focus. And of course, your own mental health. Like for me, I spend at least probably 3 hours or more every day just on me. So I know I can maintain my level of performance and just be present. Like I need to be. So it's not negotiable. Yeah.
I love that. I feel like that's something that I've more so recently, having a family and Presley and Jason, that I've realized that I've needed, you know, because I used to, I mean, Lambert's worked with me for a while now, and I used to just like go, work. I never really had like that balance or that like me time. And I've realized, kind of taking a step back and realizing, okay, I need to like reevaluate, what are like, you know, like small goals that I can get to achieve like this ultimate goal over here. And one of them was like taking more time for myself.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, everyone can do, is kind of like, what is your main goal? And do you do that? Do you do like small goal setting to like obtain your like main goal? And that's what I had to do. I had to like say like, breaks, stop a second, rewind. Let's start at A and work our way to Z.
That's right. Like we talked about it before we even got on here. Like you have to write it down.
Yeah.
You know, just the art of reverse engineering everything. Like, what do you want your day or your life to look like? Okay, now let's work backwards. How can we make that happen?
Yeah.
And I do that all the time. Yeah. All the time. Like, it's a must. So yes, the goal setting, all that, creating systems. It's just like building a business. Like, if you want to make X amount of money for your business, you have to create systems of operation that are going to influence and produce that. Same thing with life. You know, so 5 to 10 years, you want to be able to live like X and have the financial freedom to do what you want, so you could be with Presley for a week or two and not have to think about anything. Okay.
Right.
what's the game plan and the system that's going to produce that?
It's funny because a lot of people want to be successful in different areas of their life, whether it be with a job, with their family life, with their fitness goals, whatever it is. And it's funny because a lot of the systems that you're talking about are kind of the same. It's like the same method, just a little bit different for each goal,
100%.
but it's the same method. So if you have the method to be successful in a certain area of your life, you basically just use that same method a little differently, but same for the different areas of your life, Yeah.
No question.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking a lot about like succeeding, but I want to talk about failure because I feel like that is a word that so many people are so afraid of, and they don't even like try things because they just don't want to fail. And then if they do fail, they get so inside of their own head that they beat themselves up, they belittle themselves, and they don't try again. And obviously, as you know, as I know, failure is something that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I've failed. I'm sure failed.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So how do you handle failure?
Man, that's such an awesome topic. And like, you're right. People get in their heads all the time. I look at failure as feedback.
I love that.
At the end of the day, failure is feedback. You have to throw things at the wall, and of course, and obviously you're going to take some L's. You're going to have some failures in your life. And everybody talks about certain lessons they've learned. You have to literally look at it. It's like this constant thing that's giving you data on what to do and what not to do. In fitness, you obviously talk about diet and you talk about training, right? Like if you didn't hit your goal, people don't sit back and really think and reflect on, okay, what's working, what's not working, what should I keep doing, and what should I stop doing?
Right.
And so for failure, by the large community, you could say I've failed in business many times over. I mean, some people would obviously view it as a success because I've sold a business before, I've built teams, and I've partnered with other huge companies and things like that. But there's definitely certain moments during that journey where I failed. Like I lost partners during that, and I've had to let go of people that I really like cared about because of like where we were at and what was happening within the company. During that time, it hurt my marriage, because I literally started a business when I had first gotten married and had a kid.
Wow.
So there's all these little like mini failures that you just get feedback from on how to adjust.
Failure is feedback.
Yeah.
That is such a good like way to look at it. Because it's true.
Yes.
I feel like, even like failures, hardship, anything that's like kind of like a struggle in your life, you could use that as feedback.
Yeah, I think I always say there's certain words in the English language that if you redefine them in a certain way, it'll completely design your life. Like obviously failure being one of them. How people define failure is going to kind of change where their life's going to go, how people define work ethic and like working smart. Because like, let's be real, like your definition of work ethic is probably different than 95% of people in this world. And I'm not trying to shoot any shots, but it's like, man, I worked 30 hours this week. Whew, my God, like, what am I doing in my life? And then you got some people who've made it. They're like, man, I work till it's done.
Right.
Like that's so true. They don't even focus on what the time is. So,
that is so
you define work ethic like this and this person. So look where that person's at and look where this person's at. Same thing with failure, success, loyalty. There's some people who define loyalty like this. There's some people who define loyalty like this. Those people, depending on how you look at it, who you want to ride with.
Very true.
So,
but I like that. Yeah, you're right. Work ethic, failure, like you're so right. So one thing I want to get into is, I love training with you because we always like do something that's kind of like outside of my comfort zone, something that I've never done before. I always learn something from you. Like, I'm like, oh, this is a move I've never done or thought of. So what is like your style of training?
Man. So I believe I definitely have a hybrid style of training.
Hybrid. Yeah.
You know,
I'd say so.
I think that to be world-class at anything, you know, there's such a thing as what I call like the 80% rule. So in business, like in fitness, for example, I try to be 80% proficient in all these different styles of training. So if you look at a really great businessman, like they're going to be 80% good at marketing. They may not be the best, but they know 80%. They know enough to be really dangerous in that area.
Yeah.
They might know cash flow like this. They'll know strategy like this.
Right.
So for you being a fitness and wellness expert, all right, you know about 80% up in nutrition. Like, would you write the book on nutrition? Maybe not, but you know a whole lot.
Right. Right.
Kettlebells, I know this. Boxing, I know this. Calisthenics, I know this. Powerlifting, I know this. So I'm one of those coaches who really tries to learn quite a bit in every field so I can feel dangerous and show people that much, because everybody should have a coach, and you'll only grow as much as your coach grows. So if I know I'm having the opportunity to coach Paige and train with Paige, I got to be able to give Paige something that's new.
Right. Right.
So I have to take the obligation to say, okay, Paige is so great at this, and she wants to try this and wants to learn boxing and maybe this, that, and the other. Okay, let me try to introduce some of that stuff to her.
Yeah.
So my training style is a hybrid of like boxing, kettlebells, obviously a lot of like athletic influenced type of, I love the way athletes train with that type of discipline and attention to detail. So I coach people in that same regard, whether they're really an athlete or not.
Yeah. The one thing I love about your style of training too is I feel like you've really also shown me that you don't really need like a whole lot to like really put your body to the test. Mm-hmm. Like when we are in there, we're using like a kettlebell, or like it's more like animal style. Like it's so intense. And I'm like, wow, like my core is on fire, and I used a kettlebell. Like it's pretty cool. Another thing I want to touch on though is you saying that like about a coach, because I feel that like people think that like you only have a coach if you really don't know what you're doing. But even if like you're an elite athlete or you do know what you're doing, like having a coach is beneficial. There's
no doubt. I mean, I think, you know, I'm big into research.
Yeah.
And if you study people who are successful in every field, they've all either had a coach or a mentor.
Right.
Like you honestly need it if you want to get to that next level, because we talked about how failure is feedback. Well, you're going to avoid a lot of pain and failure if you actually got somebody to really guide you.
Yes.
So I think true. That's really non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've done like interviews with people that are, I mean, multimillionaires, and they have coaches.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even stop there. You know what I mean? Like even if you're like, you look at people and you're like, whoa, they're like so successful. Like even they have a coach or a mentor or, you know, someone on their team, on their side, like kind of helping them, guide them, giving them advice, teaching them something that they might not know, because you're only one person.
No doubt.
Your brain only thinks, like, you know what I mean? Like you can only research so much, obtain so much, like, you know what I mean?
No doubt. And
having a coach is like so beneficial.
Man, you know, the whole line, different levels breed different devils. You know, you get to a different level in your life, there's going to be different obstacles that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And if you don't have somebody on your right side saying, hey, turn this way a little bit. So yeah, fitness, business, relationships, and beyond. Like I think people honestly should consider having a coach in all those main categories. You need a health coach, you need a spiritual coach, you need a financial coach, you need a business coach. Like if you have at least people in your life, they don't have to necessarily be coaches per se, but but you can lean on them. Like I could call you like, hey Paige, I want to build my brand like this. Like, what do you think?
Right.
You know,
yeah,
so
of course. You need those people in your life. Okay. Going back to training, because I know that you train so many people, but how do you find time to train yourself, and what does that look like?
Oh,
like,
man.
do you have like a Monday through Saturday like split, or like do you like, what does your training look like? Because I always wonder, like, when do you train?
Man. So yes, I do. I mean, obviously I change it depending on kind of what season I am in my life, like what really is like fascinating me. But I usually do a full body split.
Oh yeah.
Like Monday, Wednesday, Friday is kind of like my style. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is a lot of like sprint work, shadow boxing, like more combat influence stuff. And then Sundays is like my create day. I think every fitness person should have a day where they just kind of create and kind of explore their body on what they can do.
I love that.
So I spend a day like creating different exercises and just seeing like what I think works.
That's cool.
But that's kind of like my style. I do the push-pull, the traditional maybe 4 days, like 2 push-pull upper, 2 push-pull lower. But I'll mix it up. Like right now, the way I train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, is full body. All the opposite days, boxing, sprint work. I love training outside.
That do you like write a program for yourself, or how do you do that? Just get into the gym and you're like, what am I going to do today?
I kind of like, obviously, since me and you've been doing it for so long, of course, there's the handful of exercises that I never not do. Like I do like dips, pull-ups, you know, obviously kettlebell swings, sprints, but like that will always be in my program.
Okay.
But there's so many different ways to do a deadlift.
Yeah.
I always kind of like mix it up. So I don't really write a program unless I'm like, all right, I want to be able to do this. So I got to design a program to do it.
Yeah. I mean, you design programs for people all day. So it's probably just instilled in your brain.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay. So moving into diet, like, do you follow a diet? Do you count macro? Like, what do you do for that? Cause you're in good shape,
man.
Like, what do you do?
So I'm like, yes, I do count my macros. Of course, there's moments where like, if you want to get to 8% body fat or below, you got to.
Yes.
And I tell everybody that I coach who's trying to reach a goal, you need to count your macros till you get to that space.
Right.
Until you don't,
100%.
until you're there, you haven't earned the right to not count.
Right. I like that.
That's my thought process. I feel like people do well when they establish like 3 to 5 rules that they can kind of apply. So like, for example, like for me, I don't do it right now, but like intermittent fasting 5 days a week.
Oh yeah.
So like, that's like, it's a loose rule. Like, okay, I'm gonna just eat between 11 and 7.
Right. Right.
If that's like the way your work schedule is, it's crazy. Like that makes sense to me. Eating fish 3-4 times a week. So again, like if it's mahi, halibut, sea bass, salmon, or whatnot, like 3-4 times a week, I'm gonna eat fish. I might eat salad like 7 or 8 times a week. So if you're eating 3-4 times a day, you know, and you're eating between 28 meals a week, 8 or 9 of them are just gonna be a salad.
Yeah.
So I give, you know, when you get to that space, it's so easy because I'll tell you this, the most successful people, you know, they have kind of a boring life. Like there's certain things that are just all about utility, and then there's the stuff that they enjoy. So for example, my breakfast is pretty much the same every day.
Right.
And my lunch is pretty much the same. When I go out to eat with my wife or with you and we all go hang out, of course, like I know when I'm gonna do that.
Right.
So yeah, 85% utility, 15% whatever I want.
Yeah. I love that, like 3 rule thing.
Just give yourself.
I'm going to do that.
Dude, yeah, just like, for example, like
I love that idea.
Some people, now first off, since everybody here is a fitness enthusiast, everything comes down to caloric deficit, right? Like if you want to lose weight or lose body fat, you start there, okay? And there's always the battle of carb, no carb, high fat, low fat, etc.
Right.
Well, a simple rule could be, hey, you're not eating any starchy carbs after 5 p.m. So if your carbs got to be fibrous after 5 p.m. That's it. It's a hard rule. So that's it. So
I love that.
So instead of if you're at a point where it's just like
such a good idea.
It's like, oh, I stay between 8 to 15% body fat. You know, I'm in that space where I don't have to be all like that anymore. I don't compete anymore. I just go by those rules.
I love that idea.
So these rules have helped me maintain.
Cool. Okay, I have to ask you a question because I ask this one sometimes to people. Do you think talent is born or earned?
My God. Well, number one, I don't know if you'll like my answer, but I believe I'm not going to give you this. You know, I'm philosophical. I'm not going to give you the same one or the other. It's both, you know, because put it like
I've
this.
never had someone say both.
It's both. Well, I'll tell you why, right? Like you know a handful of people in your life that were naturally talented.
Yes.
Like at the end of the day, they had a gift, right? And it was their obligation to nurture that gift. You know, because greatness is earned. Right. Like you were blessed with a charisma, an ability to connect with people. That's a natural talent. People, you wake up and they're like, man, this person can walk into a party, not know anybody, and leave, and they know everyone. And like that is, and they don't practice that.
That's true. That's true. That is a good
they're
point.
just naturally talented at that.
Certain skills, yeah.
But to be world class at it, and to be different and just to be a rare breed in that space, that's earned. So I think, yes, I come from, you have to earn everything. I have a baby girl and a son. And obviously like, that's one of the things that I always pound into their minds. You have to earn everything. Nobody is going to give you're not entitled to, honestly, kindness. You're not entitled to money or opportunity. Like you will have to earn it. And people are going to try to silence you. This whole world will try to silence you. So, but it is both. Like, I'm not going to act like I'm naturally talented at fitness and, you know, communicating with people. Like, I feel comfortable, like, just walking in and just talking. I could do that since I was a little kid. But to get really great at it,
That's a good point.
I had to practice it.
I like that. You're right. A lot of people are born with a certain skill or talent, but
yeah, they choose whether they're going to nourish it and maximize it. Because think about, man, not to shoot any shots, how many people are like, man, that dude was so good at basketball. Like at 13 or 14, he was owning everybody. 2021, this dude's just another, he's just another cat.
Yeah, so true.
So
true.
He was talented, though. He was.
Okay, so moving on into like your career, because like you had and have this passion and now you've made it into a career.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit more about like what you do now?
So, I mean, it's such an ambiguous term, but I'm a performance coach. So what I mean is like I train people obviously with fitness, and I don't like use the term life coach, but you know, I definitely, since I have a background in business, you know, I have a background in psychology. Like I used to actually work with, you know, a homeless shelter, like helping kids who are dealing with like abuse, and obviously the families connected to that. And, you know, people dealing with self-sabotage and addiction and things like that. So I created this online coaching, obviously platform called Rare Breed Academy. And the way I coach people is, of course, kind of just the 3 pillars at the end of the day of mind, body, and soul, which really comes down to mindset, fitness, and habit. You know, so every week I coach people. There's a mental exercise that I want them to do. Obviously, there's a different training style I introduce them to. And I'm a deep man of faith, you know, whether it's meditation for you, or something like that, like some of the stuff that you've been doing. I give people like daily meditations, like questions that they really need to, you know, interrogate themselves on kind of where they're at. So I've been doing the online coaching thing for a long time, but really pushing Rare Breed, honestly, this past year during COVID, you know, and obviously the whole world's changed.
Yeah. I mean, it couldn't have came at a better time, especially I feel like when people are really just like in their own head about things, being at home and not having that outlet.
Absolutely. So yeah, I've been doing that, but you know, I've been in healthcare and wellness for like well over a decade, you know, so owning a wellness clinic where there was physical therapists, chiropractors, nutritionists, trainers, all working together, MDs, So yeah, I've seen a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really interesting because, when we train together, and then there's always like a portion of like mindset, like kind of like leaving the day with this notion or like you said, question or, and I think that a lot of people might be missing that out of like their routine. They think that it's all about like diet and training, but like you said earlier that, yes, diet and training is like a step, but really it's about like transforming like your mind. And if you can really like dig deeper, and really like you said, mind, body, and soul, like really like, dig deeper and like get your mindset right.
Yeah.
I think your training and your diet becomes easier, and it kind of like has like a domino effect on your whole life.
No, you're absolutely right. Like your mindset is a weapon, and at the end of the day, when you know how to use it, suddenly you're just dangerous in every area.
Everything. Yeah.
And I think it's, I talk about this. You look at like Tom Brady, for instance, right? We know how great Tom Brady is. Comparing his physical ability to all these other quarterbacks, he's in a way he's great, but he's not like, oh my God, this guy who's just naturally gifted. It's his mind that separates him from everybody else. But yet people don't really invest into that side of it. And you already know like anxiety, depression, mental health, everything that comes with it as an all-time high. And it's so funny to me how people are not really investing into that side of fitness and wellness. And when I'm talking about, man, if it's reflecting, I try to teach a little bit about business, things like you said, everything connects. Everything connects. Like the stuff that has made you so successful in fitness, it's translating in business, and there's certain things that you do there, and really kind of understanding that is really the biggest game changer in everybody's life. So I try to give, every time I coach people, this, I train you for like 50 minutes, and the last 10 to 15 minutes is dedicated to mental training.
Yeah.
Where I really kind of, whether it's philosophy, entrepreneurship, psychology, I'm going to give you something. Lamb knows that too.
So you talk a lot about discipline, habits, rituals, systems. So I kind of wanted to dive into those 4 things. Cool. Because obviously, let's start with discipline, because we know that discipline is like a huge factor in being successful in anything in life, whether that be your marriage, your
absolutely
career, fitness goals. So what advice or tips would you give about being disciplined?
Well, number one, like discipline equals freedom. Like the more disciplined that you are, the more free you're going to be financially, emotionally. So I feel like discipline is the root of all good in your life. So if you if you took a bird's eye view of your life and looked at where you are like really good, it's because you're really disciplined in that area. And a lot of people don't like look at that. If there was a tip, it all comes down to me to like designing your environment. Like you have to put visual cues that make you really control your behavior. So like, for example, if people want to lose weight, like, okay, when you walk into your kitchen and you have cookies on your counter and you go into your pantry and at eye level is a bunch of like trash, you're going to eat it.
Yeah, that's
like,
such a good point.
That's it. So if you don't design your environment to make you kind of behave the way that you need to behave, it's not that people are necessarily really self-disciplined, or it's not about willpower. They just structure themselves in a way.
That is such a good point. If I think about what I did, like the discipline I had to get where I am today, and what I did, like, setting my goal, I had photos all over my house of like things I wanted to obtain, quotes that I wanted to like read to myself every day. I had it on my bathroom mirror, my refrigerator. Yeah, you're right. Like it's like cleaning out your pantry. It's
designing
your life to be more disciplined and to achieve whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve.
Yeah, like for example, you're already a creative, right? Like the minute you walk into this room and the fact that it's set up as a studio, it forces you to be creative. Like
Right.
you suddenly are in this space where it's like, okay, well, maybe I should write down topics I need to do. So yeah, discipline is not necessarily about willpower. It's like literally structuring your entire house in a way to say, okay, I want to be this fit, or I want to be wealthy in this pocket. So let me go ahead and design this room accordingly. Start there.
That's such a good piece of advice.
So put your running shoes next to, the door if you're like, hey, I'm gonna go for a walk every morning.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about rituals and habit.
Okay.
So what are some of yours?
Man, so I'm much like everybody will speak to this, I feel like your morning ritual before 8 a.m. and your evening ritual after 8 p.m., those are the bookends that really influence everything in between. So I have this, in my mind, I feel like the first 2 or 3 hours of your day are designed for you to create who you want to become and the life that you want to live. And then the last basically hour of your day is spent on what you created, the life you created, and what you need to do to adjust.
I love that.
So if you kind of go into every morning, because research will tell you you're most energetic and locked in the first 4 or 5 hours of you waking up. And then what happens? You walk out into this world and everything's trying to distract you. Like, hey, you're a parent, baby girl's sick, baby girl's crying. Oh, I was supposed to go to this appointment. This happened. You open yourself up to the chaos. Usually, if you controlled your life in such a way from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. or whatever you feel comfortable with, that really is spent on you building your career, building the body that you want, building your mind so you can handle the adversity that life's going to hit you with. And then the thing that a lot of people don't do is they're always on their phone till they go to sleep, or they're just caught up into work. They might be working late into the night. They don't spend like at least 15 to 20 minutes reflecting on what they did for the day and what they need to do the next day to adjust. So if you can just focus on having a ritual before 8 a.m. and a ritual after 8 p.m., you'll be good.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel like I halfway do that. But now that I hear you saying that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to do that tonight. I'm going to put this into practice. I like that.
So to be specific, I know you had asked me, like, I study for an hour every morning. Like I'll read something, whether it be about business, fitness, philosophy, etc. So like that's one thing in my ritual that I never negotiate with. I'll learn for like 45 minutes to an hour. I'll train for like 45 minutes. And, I'm a man of faith. So like, praying, obviously me, I have a conversation with God, just find a good mental and spiritual peace. And that's like 2 hours. So there's no doubt I'm doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then of course at night.
That's such a good way to end and start your day.
Yeah, at night, of course. And of course, I'll look at my priorities. Like, all right, okay, I got a podcast with Paige. This is what I need to do.
Yeah.
You got to look at it. Like, what's the main thing? Ask yourself, what's the one thing you can do today to make you feel accomplished?
Yeah.
Just do that. Just
Right.
that. What is that one thing? Because a lot of people, they don't know their priorities.
Yeah. That's so true. That's basically what I kind of do too, minus the sometimes I do work out. I work up 3 days this week and worked out at like 7 a.m. So
Love it.
That's good.
I saw
I'm
the
setting a goal.
F45.
That was a goal of mine. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start working out earlier. But yeah, I do that same thing. Like I read, I kind of go through like an achievement checklist. Like, what did I do today? Because it feels good to like, for me anyways, I kind of like make a to-do list or a checklist, of like things to accomplish that day or whatever. And for me, it feels good to like check it off.
Oh, yes.
And it makes me feel like accomplished, like, oh, wow, see, I really did get a lot done today.
Absolutely. Like that whole checklist manifesto, like you got to do it.
Yeah.
So there's no question. And then of course at night, I journal a lot. Yeah. So of course I have to kind of like, all right, what did I really get done today? What went right? What were the influencing factors that got me derailed? Mm-hmm. And it kind of makes you think, man, am I getting burnt out? Like, am I not in the right mental space I need to be? Should I really be doing it this way? Like just spending a little bit of time doing that
Yeah.
And then setting up your next day.
And like you said, it's a little bit of time. Like you don't have to spend like,
Yeah.
It's a 2 hours of a calculation of like a lot of things
Exactly.
that made up that 2 hours, you know, but you
Exactly.
can get so much done
Yeah.
in that 2 hours. So you also talk about systems.
Yeah.
So can you speak a little bit about that? Like, what does that mean?
So, I mean, so I want to say this is heavy, but it's like we're all, our life and us, we're all a product of our systems. And basically your systems are your habits, your rituals, your thought patterns, your emotional responses, because it's the truth. After around 30 years old, you really are like a computer system. You've lived a specific way for so long until you throw a wrench in there, you're going to be the same way, right? And it's really hard for people who are after 30, 35, 40 to honestly change their ways. Like, it's just the truth. So when I talk about systems, I always tell this to my clients. You have people are either unconscious of their systems or they're conscious of their systems. So if you're overweight or if you're a diabetic, you've committed to a system
Right.
on how to build that particular physique that you don't really know. So all that being aside, if you're successful, there was a system of habits, rituals, responses that work for you. So long story short, learning, reflecting, training, fasting. When I say fasting, I'm talking about like fasting from social media or anything that is not adding value to my life. Not necessarily fasting from food, but knowing when, man, this is starting to take control of my life, I need to fast from it. You know, it's starting to get unhealthy, the way I'm looking at it, right? And creating. So those kind of 5 things, you have creating, learning, training, what did I say? Fasting and reflecting. So I feel like you should do those things every day, a form of those things and obviously connecting with your relationship.
Right.
So that's kind of like my system. I have a system of behaviors that fall under those sections. And that's kind of how I coach people. So if your system of learning is listening to an Audible book or Paige's podcast, you know, that's what you need to do every day. If your system of training is just walking for 15, 20 minutes, nothing's wrong with that. If your system of reflecting is just asking yourself this one question, like, did I do what I said I was going to do today? Like, that creates this system that suddenly is going to produce something that really works. So like I told you about my diet, and I just made it simple. Intermittent fast 5 times a week. I cheat probably every 4 days. I'll really cheat on my diet, you know, and I won't eat too many starchy carbs after 5 o'clock. That's my system. That's my nutrition and my diet system, period. How do you train? Okay, my system is I shadow box and sprint every other day, and I do push-pull work in a circuit. That's the method. That's the system.
That's the method to your madness.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I wanted to kind of go over your 9 things that you were talking about to me.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah.
The 9 things.
Yeah.
So, well, I definitely didn't make it up. I mean, I can't remember all of them off the top, but I think anybody would really identify with this. Dr. Amen, obviously, is this brilliant physician. He came up with the 9 ants, and those ants stand for automatic negative thoughts. So at the end of the day, all human beings battle with self-sabotage and having these negative thought patterns. So I'll name a couple that are obvious, right? Number 1 is all or nothing. And that's probably the one that really gets to me, because I think you being so successful, you start to think, if I don't do this, it was a failure.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I don't get to this level of body fat by this date or win this competition, I failed. You know, that's a bad way to think. You know, if I don't make this amount of money with my business, I failed. And people who, there's good and bad to that thought process, because you can be very ambitious, but you know, it can control you to where you just start beating yourself down.
So true.
Obviously blame, right? Like you're just a victim, you know, you constantly just deflect all the bad things in your life as opposed to taking full ownership, right? You have overthinking. And we talked about that. You know, you can, you know, analysis paralysis. Like you overthink something so much that you end up not doing anything, or it completely paralyzes you. One of them is guilt beating, right? Like we've all made mistakes. We've all been people that we didn't want to be at some point, whether it be in a relationship, whether it be in business, and you carry that guilt and that shame and you do it over and over and over, and you start to think just less of yourself over time. So being aware when you're having those negative thoughts,
right,
and being able to like basically change that playlist is like so important, because a lot of people, they're honestly unaware of what's destroying their lives. Like I'll make this quick. I believe that there's three people in this world, like three types of people in this world, right? The one person is completely mindlessly walking through life. They're sleepwalking. Like they don't know what's wrong with them. Like they don't know the people that they're hurting. They don't know what they're like addicted to and not addicted to. They're just kind of living freely, right? That might be, I'm just using, maybe that's like 10% of the world. Then you have probably like 80 to 85% of people, the second type of person, who knows what's wrong with them and does nothing about it. Like how many times have you talked to somebody and they're like, man, I know I got that problem, but I mean, it is what it is. That's just who I am.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have the other 5% of people who know that they have weaknesses and actually actively try to adapt or improve in that particular pocket. Like they accept, man, I am pretty weak here. I either need to do this or I just need to improve it. At the end of the day, those are three types of people that you're going to see.
True. Yeah.
And the truth is we all hover within those three types. There are times where I've hurt my marriage and my relationship and I didn't know it. You know, it took a lot of like face-to-face brutal honesty with my wife and me to understand, like, man, I think I'm doing right by working like this and doing like this, but man, I'm really hurting something that's this is everything to my life.
Right, right.
So you kind of go through those three types of people in different phases of your life. And if you're conscious of that, you're going to end up winning. Like you're going to be able to make those adjustments where you need to. And it kind of goes back to the automatic negative thoughts.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Man, I am overthinking this situation.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah. I had that the other day. Like I have the all or nothing, I guess, thing.
Yeah.
Negative thought. And the other day I have it to where like my to-do list every day is like giant. Like I can't get it all done, but I try to get it all done, but I beat myself up if I don't.
Yeah.
And the other day I actually went into I remember this because I was like, I like had an epiphany, like, whoa, like I beat myself up every day. But I went into my room and I was like, wow, I accomplished a lot today. I literally said that to myself in my head. And then the other voice in my head was like, you just said that to yourself in your head because you never praise yourself for the things that you do on the daily basis, you know, because it's kind of like social media, you know, like, you can have 100 comments and 99 of them are like amazing comments, but there's that one comment that like sticks out to you and it's negative and you disregard the 99 positive things in your life or those comments. But that one thing, you just zone in on that and hone in on that.
You're so on the money. So yeah, I mean, obviously I think the all or nothing mentality has helped you. I mean, you wouldn't be a disruptor in this industry if you didn't say, man, I gotta make it, like it's non-negotiable. But at the same time, like you said, you have to be very careful that you're not like beating yourself up over things that like, come on, like you're good.
Yeah. So to wrap today's episode up, I wanted to leave on the note of you giving advice to people. So I wanted to kind of just say, like, you know, a lot of people just think that it's too late for them, or they self-sabotage them so much that they feel like they're basically like doomed. Like there's just nothing that they can do in life to like get better or to do better. And so what is a piece of advice to those people that feel like they want to get better, but they don't even know like how to start or how to like go in the direction of improving their life?
Man, I would say, well, number one, if anybody take this, however, everything is fixable. Like no matter what it is.
That is so true. Everything
is fixable. It may take time, you know, so no matter where you're at in your life, I would honestly lead with that. To make it practical, and I know we've talked about this before, is to really change one habit a month. And it doesn't have to be big. And just to give you the perspective of it, I tell all my clients, right, depending on where they're at in their journey, if you can change 1 to 2 habits per month and achieve 3 to 4 goals per year, you know, over the next 2 years, you're going to change 24 to 48 habits and you're going to achieve 4 to 8 major things if you commit. Do you think you're going to be the same person? Do you think you're going to be in the same stage of your life if you actually do that? And of course they're like, no, I'm gonna be a beast. Yeah. Like that's it. If I literally hit my marks, but you know, if you just start with that and start super small, you know, it just, you know, everybody thinks, like, for example, people starting with social media, and I'm telling you this as a compliment, you know, you're a bar, right? Like when I started, and at this, you know, of course I influence a lot of people here, you start posting on social, you see someone of your magnitude, it silences you. Like, man, you know what? This place too saturated. They already got the game changers in there. So just say, hey, I'm gonna post one thing a week, period. It doesn't even have to be anything related to XYZ. Start there. Then you build, then you build, then you build. Before you know it, you'll just be a monster.
Yeah, that's
you know?
So true.
So yeah, one habit a month. And I'll give you my advice for you, since I have to do it too. Write 2 or 3 wins at the end of your day. If you said you love writing things down,
yeah,
and you have to attack all these things, obviously being in your position, what'll help is you write 2 or 3 things that went right for the day. On Sunday, when you reflect on your week and you start feeling like, man, this week was awful. Like I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Read back those 2 or 3 things. You'll start to say, you know what? I'm like, I actually got a lot done.
Yeah.
I was like, but for whatever reason, I got lost in the chaos of the world and I felt like I was like a failure, but you weren't.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, another thing too is like we were talking before the episode today, and we were talking about how we just love to write things down. Like I'm a big believer of writing things down, and so is John. So that was like cool. I was like, oh, you too? Like you're like, you know.
It's a must. Yeah. Like I think, put it like this, writing things down, I've actually heard a great writer say this. If you write certain things down, you find your own voice. Like you start to figure out what you want to say to this world, and obviously what type of life and day you want to create. And I really resonated with that, because you being a creator, a writer, and obviously a fitness influencer, now that you're starting to getting to really inspire and show people different parts of your life, you start to find your own voice. Like, you know what, this is what I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Well, thank you for coming on Coming Clean. Do you want to tell people like where they can find you? Obviously like Instagram, but like.
Yes. At Pruna, JAYPRUNA is my Instagram handle. rarebreedacademy.com is my website. And my new website will come out where it's just jpruna.com, but that will be coming. So
cool.
I hope you guys come through.
Yeah. You guys have to check him out. I mean, just following on social media, like, first off, your voice is like so like calming and so motivating in its own. But then like if we probably could make a video of all of your little like quotes that you say like throughout just this episode. You also post like so many like motivational quotes and stuff. I'm like, and just like tools. Like I love like going to your page and just seeing like, oh, I love that, or that's so inspiring, or I'm going to do that, or great idea. You know, it's,
man, I love it.
Yeah. So thank you.
This has meant so much. Thank you for letting me be on. I got to tell my wife, I just won so many points for making it. And I made it to Paige's top 5. Like,
no, you're pretty extraordinary. I'm not going to lie.
I love it. Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. If you're not watching it on YouTube, make sure you go watch it there. All the episodes are put up there so everyone can just watch it while you're doing cardio or cleaning your house, and make sure you rate and review this Apple podcast. And I will see you guys next week.